3, beginning with item number 1, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda for today? If so, please step forward or raise your hand. Great, see no one. Item number 2, the agenda status report. Jonathan.
Item number 6 is going to be dropped from today's agenda. Hickman, residential additions is going to be dropped from today's agenda. Item number 6.
Okay, thank you.
Buenos días, voy a comenzar la reunión de junio 16 del 2023 de los supervisores del Condado de Santa Bárbara para el año fiscal 23-24, plan operativo. Señora secretaria, puede llamar a la lista. Lavanino, aquí. Hartman, aquí. Caps, aquí. Profesor Nelson, aquí. Y presidente William, aquí. Muy bien, pónganse de pie entonces a hacer la promesa a la bandera conmigo.
Set. Okay, so item 3, the minutes from the last meeting on June 2nd. We'll review those this time. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So item E, is the third sentence, we clearly notate height of fence bordering property lines. I think that should say height of fence and walls. Else from- Alex, would you say C is accurate? Generally supportive of the overall side of the floor.
All support the requested by exception is mixed. C says that. Mixed, mixed.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we support them.
Genuine.
Okay, well, I think it's a good sentence, so there's some direction. It's okay. think that's fine for that.
Mr. Chair, to confirm, did you have any changes for item C?
No, just item B. You got that one?
Yes, where it says fence and walls.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
The thing is that these are the plans were so complicated. I made that point. It's not that you cannot see them, but there was so many values when people start, preliminary plans, all the dimension lines and all this other stuff. It becomes just so, it complicates the visual so much that it's really hard to read. So that's what I remember about that project. It seems like almost like it's trying not to show something. When you see a whole bunch of lines in the drawing, it's what I'm trying to figure, thinking, what are they not showing?
Yeah. So maybe, I mean, B kind of touches on that. Should we add something? Plans presented are difficult to read and height of site wall is not clear. Return with clear visual presentation of proposal. Remove extraneous information from plans.
Yeah, information not required for preliminary plans.
So remove information not required for preliminary. Remove extraneous information that's not required for preliminary approval.
Okay, great. I've got that.
Number 3. Item E on this one, second sentence, one board member suggested studying the use of cable railing or raising walls.
You're talking about solid guardrail at the bottom, like they did upstairs.
Yeah.
They did downstairs.
Right.
Or using a solid guardrail at the bottom of the guardrail.
So I'm sorry. So was the comment was to add or raising walls after cable railing?
Or using as a solid wall for the bottom of the guardrail.
Okay.
Four. Next.
They have, on their presentation this time, they have more buildings. They're introducing some prefabricated buildings. But that wasn't a part when this presentation was made. This was just for this house. Is that correct?
We go back to item 6.
Yeah.
Talking about this item 6 that we're reviewing.
Yeah. you know, that, the presentation of the main house, that they have some, worker buildings which are prefabricated, I think,
That were also a part of,
but they weren't a part of this first submission. At least I didn't see them, or I missed them.
well, the application looks like it's for a new single family dwelling and detached garage. Then,
So for this application, that the agent indicated that they would be returning to planning and development in the future for an accessory dwelling unit, which would not be reviewed by this board.
Okay.
they're also here today,
Yeah, today, for the,
we'll see that's well.
yeah. Yeah, it's correct, but it was not on the previous application, it was under notice.
So, John, we'll see them today, they're item number 8. Okay, so,
But it's a different bar number, application number. The other one is 0039 and this one is 414.
are they different projects? So 6210 Sunset Ridge, okay, okay, that's good.
It's a different application.
Yeah, different project. Got it. Okay, so back to 9. Mm. 9B should just say all lighting is dark sky compliant, not it. Anything else? Number 10.
Okay, so we're good?
Oh, yeah,
Minutes?
number 11. Okay. 12. Okay. That it?
Yep.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 4, SBAR members informational briefings. I have to step down from item number 1. No. Okay. Let's- I like turtles. Okay, excellent, thank you. Item number 5, staff update.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So I guess my update is again related on the same note as last time to the department's integration of a new online application submittal portal. Just want to make a quick plug on that again and have a reminder that the department will not be accepting any new applications starting at 5 p.m. next Friday on the 23rd and through the next week until we reopen on July 5th. So just be aware of that. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to the front counters or to supervising planners or staff, and we can walk you through any questions.
So you said is there a week where you can't submit anything? Is that what I heard, or?
Yeah, so there is a week where we are not accepting new applications. If you have an application that's currently in process, you can resubmit. But what we're doing is we're closing our intake of new projects for a 1 week period to allow our teams to set up for the new system to take new projects in.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure it'll all go smoothly. The other thing that, I don't know if you want to speak to this, Joe, but we are going to be vacating this room sometime in July for a couple of months. And we don't know where we're going yet, but parking lot. We can't go back online. So I think David Villalobos is working on it. He'll let us know where we're going, but there's a remodel happening here for a couple of months, but they're not doing anything with the HVAC system, which is interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know all the details. I think David Villalobos has more information than I do, and I believe it actually may be potentially through the end of the year. So I think we're gonna have more information to come in at the next hearing.
Can we get a little window right here where the door is? No.
Okay. All right, so. All those in favor? So consent agenda, Mr. Joe.
Well, the item number 1 is approved as submitted. That's the 6709 Del Playa Drive, C2, 685 Toro Canyon Road, approved with a condition that the color of the membrane on the roof is be gray instead of white. And item numbers C3, 3091 Padaro Lane, approved as submitted. So make a motion to, excuse me, I make a motion to approve those 3 items as noted.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. So we can begin now with our standard agenda with item number 1, which I will be stepping down for, and Josh will take us through it.
We have our applicants, and then, yeah, please jump in there to the podium. I think the microphones work now since the last time we were here, so just state your name. for the record. So. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong sheet.
You want to point it?
Okay, so this is further conceptual review, so, yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here. Mr. Oshner, but has anything changed about the project since the last time we saw it significantly?
Good morning. I'm Tom Oshner, project architect. Yes, we've redesigned it, and we've also had a chance to respond to the latest comments from Summerlin that we just received just a few days ago.
Okay, good. Well, let's do this. Why don't you take us through the new design proposal, and then let's just figure out what are still applicable comments. You had a few of them there. But
Sure. So let me sort of encapsulate the major items here, and then I'll take you through the plans. But basically, there were some concerns about the massing as it related north-south versus east-west. I'll go through that. We redesigned the massing to push it away from what was told to us to be the sensitive side, which is the east side. I'll go through that. We've redesigned the roof to be more accommodating for the hillside condition. The height of the building is only 21.5 feet now. We've embraced the Monterey Spanish style with expressed eaves and rakes and so forth. I'll go through that. And we're hoping to still retain a mission tile roof, but a very dark color, which really won't show many shadows, just because the owner really loves the Spanish style. And when she bought her home, she really didn't understand that she couldn't have well, that Summerlin was, you know, she's from out of the area and she moved to Santa Barbara. And so not to embrace, the Mediterranean style was kind of a shock to her, but she really does love this style. But we can go through, I think we can skip forward here several pages until we get to the proposed site plan. Keep going. Keep going. And let's stop here. So the ground level footprint still basically retains the same configuration. We're adding a small, reconfiguring a little betterment, making it larger on that northeast corner. And then we've got down here, we've got a covered patio, which comes off of the living room, and that's still a part of the program. You can see the large stone pine here, and this is about a 20-foot drop down to Valencia Street. I can come back to the site plan, but I want to go through the changes. Next slide. This is just the survey. Next slide. And then this is just the grading and drainage plan. Go forward a few more site plans. Proposed grading, keep going. And then you got this sheet I'd like to spend a little bit of time on. So we've had a chance to respond to Summerlin's concern. We've located the neighboring house and dug up the topography online. And so basically the concern was to show how the two-story mass fit between the neighboring part. This is about 20 feet above it, and it comes down, and then the Valencia is about 20 feet below it. And then we've got the big stone pine there. So what we did was we pulled the mass in 4 feet from the east side and consolidated it over the front portion of the house. Now, the massing over the north side of the house is really kind of the premise to the project, in the sense that the this portion of the house over here has the bathrooms, and this is a clay site, and we'd have to drill in and pour caissons, and that would tear up half of the value of the house. And the massing being centered over the entry is something that can balance out the front of the house, and we'll go through that as we look at the architecture, but we can come back to this site section. This was one of the major items that Summerlin had requested. Next slide. This is the first floor. And you can see the second story is basically proposed to be on the north side here. And then the covered patio, and these bathrooms are in great condition, and we're looking to retain a volume space over the living space here. Next slide. So this shows how we've reworked the east side here and pushed this back from the outer edge, and the elevations will show that more. We've introduced some hip roofs to balance out the hip roof element here. So this went to hip, and then the roof elements over this portion went to hip also. Next slide. And then the roof plan. So this was a gable, and we brought down we're 3.5 and 12 pitch. We've got sheds along here that introduce some deep overhangs and a lower profile of the building as it relates to the east. And you can see the setbacks, this is pulled well within the setbacks on that east side. And really it sets back on the north side as well. And a little bit on the west side. Next slide. These are the existing elevations that you had asked to see. You can see it's a very simple structure. We can come back to this if you'd like. Next slide. So we've embraced the Monterey style. We've expressed the rakes and the eaves with heavy timber and outlookers. We've got a wood balcony on that east side. The second story pushes back from this 4 feet, and then the balcony and the deep overhangs add a sense of shadow line. We've on the front of the house, you can see this was pulled back, this mass here, and we've added heavy timbers above the openings, above the fenestration. The CAD elevations don't show that though, but it's intended. But they do show, the rest of the detailing. The chimney heights, I think were commented on, but these are gas only. And so, the heights can be lower than what other people might, be concerned about. The roof tile we're proposing is a deep adobe blend. And if it does not have the shadows that you see on lighter colored tiles kind of really pop a bit. And I think that's probably the spirit of the desire for the Monterey style here to have the flat tile roof. But I've seen this blend and it really just kind of, it has a subtle texture to it, but it really doesn't pop in the sunlight like you would see those lighter color roofs. And I think it works, it can work with the Monterey style very well. And obviously, so can the flat tile as Summerlin was recommending, but we'd really like to achieve this barrel tile on this structure. Next slide. And then in terms of, you had asked for some details, so we've got our typical details. We've got the express rafter tails, heavy timber, and the rakes that extend out with the outlookers. There was a comment to simplify the railings to either wood or iron, and that's fine. We can work on that. And we've got metal clad windows set back into the exterior of the walls to work with the Monterey style. I think that's about it. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I think that covers everything. Thank you for your presentation. So any questions from board members at this point? Do we have, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, no, I guess is the planner here, Kylie Brown, present online, Jonathan Dino? No, it's just, I have a question about the guidelines. I mean, I read the Summerland letter and so is it the guideline, is the hard line, how is it worded? I was wondering how, you know, like because we shouldn't be going against the specific guidelines of a community plan, but I want to know what's the wording in the guidelines? And, you know, that's why I would like the planner to maybe clarify that.
Okay, let's see if we can get that information while we're
Okay. Okay, that's the only question I have.
Joe, are you with us? Joe? Hey, Joe. Who's my planner man? Is Joe with us too?
Yes, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. I'm gonna go through public comment and yeah, some just reminding me of a planner memo here to look at. Can you address, can you dig out something to address Alex's question, and then we're gonna come back to you. If it could help out.
Sure.
I don't, where's the planner memo? Oh, here it is. Let me look at this quickly, then we'll open up public comment. See if we have some answers here. So the Summerlin residential guidelines include acceptable and encourage conditionally acceptable. Can you read this out? And it didn't go as far to answer your question.
I think it's fine. I read it quickly, but it seems to be acceptable, right? There is the unacceptable styles are Spanish or Mediterranean, Southwest European, provincial, full frame, and geodesic dome. Okay, well, it's not the geodesic dome, so we're good there.
Yeah, acceptable encouraged for California bungalows, seaside and Victorian style. Conditionally acceptable styles for Monterey contemporary style. So that's the letter of what we're you think
And
that
that's it. I think it's the unacceptable styles are like right there. And I wonder where the hard line is, because I mean,
well
yeah, I'm trying to figure out what exactly is it that we're
yeah,
doing.
that's
there.
what we're getting $50 for.
That's right.
Right. So start thinking. All right, public comment. Do we have anybody online? I know we have somebody here in person. Okay, and sorry.
If anybody would like to speak on public item for item number 1, please raise your hand in the chat.
Then going back to our I don't see any letters. I just, oh, good. Here we go. So we have a letter here from Kim Miller, Whitney Avenue resident, very concerned about the placement of the second story. Request for story poles. And yeah, again, just two kind of bids there for story polling and concerned about that. I have another one here from Richard Johnson, and just paraphrasing. Most of the prior comments from us have not been responded to. East side is a 4-foot. Not sure what that, okay, yeah, sections talking about the drawings. So mission tile is not allowed in Summerlin, it's being alleged here. Flat shale like tile would work for an acceptable Monterey style. Topo does not indicate grade levels. Footprint on west side is road. Just trying to figure out anything that's in our purview here. Discussion about the taller the chimney's height. Windows in the balcony. Story poles requested. Discussion about FARs here. So I know all the board members have had a chance to read this, but I just want to make sure these letters get into the record at some level and acknowledge the last one from Tricia Koenig. Writing on behalf of a 93-year-old neighbor, concerned about the placement of the second story, and most importantly, they say story poles. So all three of the letters were requesting story poles. We have some concern about the second story, for sure. All right, so with that, I think we have a member of the public here today, Tom. I'm going to give you.
I need extra to answer that question.
Yeah, you tend to go over on time, so try and keep it on time. Chris doesn't give as generous amount of time as I do, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And Alex is going to time it, so try and wrap it up when you hear the buzzer.
Okay. Tom Evans, speaking from the SCA today.
Speaking from, say again?
Speaking for the Summerlin Citizens Association, SBAR.
You're speaking on behalf of them today?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's time for story polls or some kind of representation. So far, we do not have anything showing the adjacent residences, their finished floors and all that sort of thing, which is what we normally get. So we kind of get a picture of what's going on. And we don't have that. And since the second story addition kind of goes east-west across the topo, it's going to create more impacts to the neighbors to the north, some of which will definitely be impacted. And, you know, he's kind of trying to decide what to do with this project. I think he'd rather move ahead without doing too much modification to the footprint or the second story footprint. But that's, you know, I think it's going to be problematic, and it'd be just best to find out now. I mean, he could even go out and put up some temporary or a couple of poles and probably get an idea of whether there's an issue or not. But it's up to you guys what level you want to see it. But my take, just from looking at it closely, is that it's going to want to end up both just from a good design standpoint and from the neighborhood standpoint being more north-south and against the uphill side more. The styles, just to answer your question, Alex, the following architectural styles are found to be within the existing character and can contribute positively to the community and neighborhood character. And these are conditionally acceptable styles of findings, and they are Monterey and contemporary. Now, Monterey talks about the styles named after the coastal town and so on, and gives some details about how they are generally configured. And the roofs are,
30 seconds.
the roofs are low pitched and covered with shingles. Then it goes on and to describe more accurately, shallow pitch roof with prominent eave overhangs. Exterior materials include plaster or smooth finish stucco, adobe brick, wood, flat tile, or wood shingle roof. Now, in this area of Summerland,
Okay,
behind
Tom,
Summerland,
that's your 3 minutes. Get to the point, please. I don't need to lecture on architecture today. Just tell us what you came to talk about.
well, I'm trying to read this, where it says,
Yeah, we already read it.
okay,
Get to the
you've read
point.
it.
You're using up your time here. You're already at
Alex
3
had a
minutes.
question. So anyway, we haven't had, since the inception of the community plan over 30 years ago, we have not had any new mission tile roofs in this area. They are not allowed. And so we're happy with Monterey, but it needs to be a flat tile or wood shingle roof.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any other public comment?
Yes, this is Kristen Eberwine, the owner of the home. May I speak for a couple minutes?
Sure. Are you
Just
part of
very
the-
quickly, I just would like to,
Hold on a second. Hold on a
okay.
second. So you're the applicant.
Yes,
So we're wrapping up public comment. So
okay, sorry.
find out if we have any more members of the public here before we close public comment. So nobody's raising their hands on that. Okay, so we're going to close public comment for now. I will give the applicant and the owner a chance to respond. We're going to first go through comments from the board. So let's hear what the board has to say, and then we'll have your architect and you come back to the microphone, and we
No
can have some
problem.
discussion on this if you need. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know you're remote, so I don't want to cut you off. But we'll just go in order here. It'll go smoothly, I hope. All right, so just to kind of tidy up the conversation here, let's start with the easy stuff. Last time that we looked at this project, the comment was that the landscape was acceptable. And it appears to me that doesn't seem to be any controversy around the landscape. So I think we're still in that same frame of mind on the project. And then we asked you return with existing demo floor plan, which it looks like you've done. And we asked to provide existing and proposed elevations on the same sheet, which it looks like you've done. There's been lots of discussion about a proposed story polling, so we will discuss whether or not today we're ready to go do that. We might be at that point. So we'll come back to that. So what that leaves for us in terms of just cleaning up the comments from last time are the fireplace. There was a comment about it being awkward above the garage. There was a study, the window fenestrations comment, and then there's a question of the tile roof, and the tile roof conversation got kind of folded in with a conversation about corbels and trellis appearing out of scale. So we need some assessment of that. And then study the detailing throughout and provide more details on plans. So the applicant provided more details that should be noted. And exterior finish elements and demonstrate proposed architectural style. So I think that's been done in the architectural document. So what we have here is a discussion on the tile roof and corbels from that comment on F. So, and then responding to anything we've heard from the neighbors or the applicant. So Valerie, let's start with you and hear your comments, trying to address these points and anything you've heard today.
Well, I feel like we can be supportive of the Monterey style and the fact that the applicants are trying to develop the details of Monterey is very important, and that's a positive approach. I think that story poles are absolutely going to be necessary, and a pretty complete story pole plan. And I think that the barrel tile is problematic. There's a strong sense in the Summerlin community of what's acceptable for their design guidelines, and I don't see a good argument for deviating from that. If there could be authentic examples of Monterey style successfully working with that in a historical vein, maybe, but not yet.
Any comment about the chimney, the window fenestration, the corbels and the other detailing that was
Elevation.
brought up?
No, I mean, I think they've been improved the general arrangement.
John?
Well, I think that, first of all, that they've done a really good job turning that building around and making sense of it all. I think that the story poles hopefully will illuminate what the problem is. You know, it's hard to visualize. I think it backs up to a bank ground, and maybe that will look more appropriate when we see it in 3D. I think that you know, he's going to have to go to a flat clay tile if he wants to maintain that clay roof. Those would be my comments.
Okay, and we're gonna skip out now. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, it's small addition and it's well done. I'm surprised about how many comments there are on the concern about the story poles. It's only 837 square feet on the second floor. It is not, I think that our first comment is that appears that the second story side loaded and makes the mass overwhelming. I don't agree with that comment. And I understand that story poles may be necessary, but keep it in mind, it is a small project, a small addition, is well executed. And I think we should proceed, you know, after we see the story poles and make a decision on what kind of tile goes in there later after further study, because I do recall seeing some Monterey buildings with old tile, like really old buildings, you know, from the 19th century. So I'm not totally clear what that, if that rule is so hard, like there's something about barrel tile itself. So I will keep a little bit of an open window there and concentrate more on the mass Vulcan scale and the details and all that, and then finally make a final you know, decision on the type of tile.
Okay, great, thank you. Scrub.
I don't have much to add. The landscaping seems acceptable and
I'll make a final comment about the style. This isn't historic preservation of a Monterey building, so it's referred to as a turn of the century, the origin of the Monterey style. This is a Monterey revival project at best. So it's drawing from the Monterey style, but it's a revival type architecture. This is certainly not a tried and true Monterey style. So there's, you know, I was just thinking in my own mind, absolutely a precedence for this type of building. If you're going to use the moniker Monterey style, barrel tile roofs are absolutely common. It's almost uncountable how many projects of this style use barrel tile roof. And it also works to do a flat shake style or cementitious style. But so I don't think you could say there's a precedent for it. It seems like just this community doesn't like barrel tile roofs, and that's where the difference is. So I think, you know, I agree with Alex. As an architectural choice for the house itself, it's fine, looks great. I think the I'm okay with the since nobody really took this on, the chimney still remains over the garage. I don't think it's a problem. I think when you get this into 3 dimensions, it's probably going to fit in. It's somewhat minimized, so I would support the project with the chimney the way it is. For the that's item D. The window fenestrations look like they've come along and look nice and orderly and and well done. So I think that items E has been handled quite nicely. The corbels and the study, the detailing seems to be appropriate to the style. I also think story polling is necessary. Just as a matter of discussion for the applicant, like, you know, in terms of getting to this Monterey style you're going for, I think I would point to on sheet A6.2 down the bottom there, Jonathan. Pointer. I think, sorry, you got a menu in front of that. I think there's an opportunity in this area of the second floor to add like a more of a wood finish to exemplify this, like Monterey buildings, Monterey style usually has a lot of wood. Probably northern latitudes have more wood than mud and adobe, right? And that's kind of the difference in my mind a little bit, is the use of wood between what there's a lot of plaster. So this is kind of emulating an old adobe structure or plastered, type structure. And there's not a lot of wood on the second story. I actually see the trellises and the post and beam construction. But I think adding some wood siding or thinking about bringing some wood finishes to the second floor, if you're really trying to push for a Monterey style and you want to be compelling and convincing about it. Otherwise, I feel like it's more of a Spanish Mediterranean style house with a couple of Monterey accents on it, and I think you're trying to make a pretty strong argument here that you're doing a Monterey style. So I would lean into it a little bit further and try and get more wood finish on the second floor. And it might just be like this panel here, or maybe on the other side, going up a little bit, Jonathan, to the next drawing above that. This element here. And getting that dark wood on the second floor, which I think is emblematic of that, and remember what I said at first, it's a revival, right? So your discretion to how to do that. And you're not certainly trying to do a historic renovation. Sure, go ahead.
Totally agree with that. And I know this goes both ways, because you may want to keep the profile of the house as low as possible. But usually Monterey styles are more relaxed, so there's less hip and more gables, because gables are easier to frame and they're kind of more like. But it does add to the mass Vulcan scale. So I understand this. But whatever, I think in one of the elevations has a hip that I was wondering why is there a hip there? But anyway, just a suggestion, because I understand they will increase the height of the bulk of the building.
Okay, very good. So we're gonna want to see story polling. So just before I hand the mic back to the applicants here, are we ready? Okay, so I think before we see this again, we want to do some story polling. I don't think there's any specific instructions that this board has around the story polling. Just, I think work with your planner to do an acceptable story poll plan. And, let's focus mainly on the second floor, not get carried away here. Let's minimize that. With that, get back to the applicants. Tom, if you want to rebut anything or discuss anything, and I know you're the other part of your party here, you're the homeowner wants to speak, so please go ahead and make your comments now.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I understand clearly your comments. I'm fine with those. I think the homeowner does want to say a few words possibly.
Please, yeah, go ahead and state your name for the record and state your case.
Hi, this is Kristen Eberwine, the homeowner, and I just wanted to note that there has been quite a bit of fire in the area, and I am located where the winds come through that little valley there. My neighbor's house is burned down. I do like the fact that there's tiles on my roof. So I understand that, you have gone through all the stipulations of what is acceptable and not acceptable, but I feel that the fact that we're going to be going a darker color and a lower profile on it, that it will be not that Spanish tile, but it will be more of the Mediterranean look. And that's one of the main reasons as well that I want that kind of a tile on it.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Just, again, just as a friendly advice, the term meta training is not gonna help you guys.
Or
Apparently.
Monterey, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
whatever. it is. I mean, you know what, honestly, we've switched gear. I mean, as you can see that I've already, this is my whole second draft of stuff from Tom that has been painstakingly going through. So we're trying to abide by what you want to do as much as we possibly can, and we want to make sure that we're within the guidelines.
Very
But
good.
that was the reasoning on why I wanted that type of style as well. My sister's house burned down. I've had neighbors' houses burned down, so I've had a lot of fire. So that's another one of my concerns.
All right, well, thanks for a nice and tidy presentation as usual, Tom, and let's reconvene on site to look at story polls, and we'll continue as for further conceptual. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. So when does the board feel comfortable agendizing this to come back on to the preliminary approval? Yeah, so we'll come back on conceptual preliminary. Thank you. Mr. Gilligan. Gilligan. Please come back.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Next. Correct. Okay. It's okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, item number 2, Goto, new residence and guest house, request of Johnny Hirsch, architect for Ken Goto. For further conceptual and preliminary review of a new residence of 4,000 square feet and a guest house of 800 square feet on a vacant lot at 805 Toro Canyon Road, last heard May 5th of this year. And we have the applicant here. Please state your names for the record.
Johnny Hirsch.
Olditch with Bosque Landscape Architecture. Okay, welcome, gentlemen. We have a few comments from last time. I'll read through those, and we also have a planner memo. You want to pull that up, Jonathan? Actually, we only have 2 comments. Return with plans clearly showing the height and extent of the proposed exceedance of the 16-foot ridge line hillside height limit. B, the board is supportive of some additional grading to help reduce the overall height of the proposed structure. And as such, the planner memo reads as follows. As proposed, the single-family dwelling exceeds the height limit for structures subject to the ridgeline and hillside development guidelines. Since the parcel is located within the inner rural area, the height of the structure shall not exceed 16 feet. The current proposal exceeds this limit by 5 feet. The board has a discretion to exempt a structure from compliance with the 16-foot limit, provided that in their review of the structure, they make the finding that allowing greater flexibility in the guidelines will better serve the interests of good design without negatively affecting neighborhood compatibility or the surrounding view shed. All right. If supportive of the exemption, please make this finding in your action. And so with that, I think we can turn this over to you, gentlemen, for your presentation. I'm gonna set a timer here for 10 minutes. If you can try and stick to that, that'd be great. So whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Just a quick historical overview of comments and addressing those comments previously here at the board. From June 17th last year, nice project. I can't get enough of that. And I'll just skip through. Consider more undulation with the roof form to reflect undulation of building layout. Provide studies showing views into the site from different vantage points. Landscape screening will be important. Provide more site sections and fully developed grading plan and coordinating civil, architectural, and landscape sheets. Site visit with story poles will be required after further review. March 17th of this year. Nice project. Site planning appears to be acceptable. The board is concerned with view impacts from Toro Canyon Road. Provide photo sim studies showing views into the site from different vantage points. And then our last visit, May 5th, you read the comments. You've seen the planner memo. I do want to quickly refer to the Toro Canyon plan. Some salient points: provide for the reasonable use of property, limited additional development, largely maintains it's compatible with existing scale and character of the area, protect public views and ocean and of the ocean and mountains, preserve open space, protect the scenic backdrop of foothills and mountainsides, protect sensitive habitats, preserve the rural roadway character, including the lack of curved sidewalks. Development, including houses, roads, and driveways, shall be sited and designed to be compatible with the subordinate to significant natural features such as major rock outcroppings. Anyway, I just wanted to go through that to kind of give you a background as to why those guidelines were developed. And now if we can just move to sheet A0.2. I want to quickly review the photo sims that were requested with the plantings that screen the proposed house. So that's one view keyed from the lower portion of the site off of Toro. A0.3 was a second vantage point onto the site. Next sheet, please. Showing the screening, fully obfuscating the development. Next page, please. Third vantage point, and all these vantage points represent the only views that from Toro Canyon that would be relevant to viewing the project. Everything else has fully matured oak trees and eucalyptus that screen, and plus the proposed screening will further help that. Next page, please. These are all sheets that you've already, I'm sorry, next page, please. I'm missing A0.5. Oh, it's in another file. There we go. Okay, so A0.5 shows again the relevant site section at the highest point of the proposed development with the added with the added 16-foot limit elevation that was missing from last time. Next page on this file, please. I did want to bring up just as a point of reference, I have three things that should be showing up there. One is the approved development envelope, which is that light blue. What's not showing up in this is the light green, which would be the approved building envelope, and then our roof plan showing what we're actually proposing. So my point here is that we are being sensitive to the guidelines in terms of not overbuilding the site. All this has already been reviewed and acknowledged. I just want to give some background. Next slide, please. This is a new slide showing what I think was missing all along, which is showing how much of the proposed development is actually penetrating through that 16-foot height limit, ridgeline height limitation. I'm sorry. Okay. So okay. Okay. So this portion right here is what's penetrating. All the rest is an extrusion of that 16-foot height limitation rendered in blue here. So this little corner is where we're penetrating through. Next slide, please. we're going to show you other views, other modeled views. Yeah, okay, so this is, again, everything in the blue is underwater, under the 16 foot. And this portion right here is what's penetrating through from other views, above the house. That's what's penetrating through. A side view is right here. And that the front view from what would be approximate the view onto the site from Toro is right there. We have updated all our civil and landscape drawings. We have lowered the roof, lowered the finished floor, increased a little bit of our proposed grading for the recommendation of the board. And we are now exceeding in this part 5 feet above that 16 foot limitation.
Do you have the landscape plans? I didn't
Yes.
see them in the set.
Yes, it would be a separate file.
They're in our box.
There should be. They were uploaded. Joe or someone on that side, help me out here.
Yeah.
I have hard copies if you want, but they.
Well, it's
I'm sorry, what file is it that you're looking for?
It was confirmed, uploaded.
So, okay. Okay, all right, so anything else besides, I don't know if we can try and track those down, Joe or Jonathan, and then we can come back maybe to the landscape plans, but in the meantime, let's bring it back to the board for questions.
I got a couple of questions. Okay. So you're saying the application says that the structure is 4,000 square feet and an 800 square foot garage.
Correct.
But somewhere in the plans I saw 6,000 square feet of structures. Is that incorrect? I did see it in one of the sheets somewhere. No.
No.
Okay, very good.
That-
And you're going for 2,400 cubic yards of cut and fill, or you're going more than that?
We had a balance cut and fill, and with this addition now we're in excess of, we're exporting.
That's the
Correct.
previous project.
That was because we asked you to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
I have some questions. How much are you grading down? How much did you lower the finished floor?
We lowered the finished floor 1 foot, and then we decreased the roof slope to another foot, so 2 feet. We've lowered it.
It's not it, that's the previous.
And
project.
then,
Really nice plan.
what percentage of your roof is above the 16 foot? What's the square footage of exceeding?
It says it on there, I believe it's 750, so correct? It says
Seven,
it,
755, it's somewhere on the page.
yes, 755.
But it goes from 0 to 5. I mean, like it goes from 16 feet to 21, but it's not all of it goes to 5 feet. The exceedance, that's the area, which is pretty large. But some it goes from 0, it goes from
Yes, it's
0.
not,
Goes from
it's
16.
exactly, it's sloping up, so it's not all at the 21.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, I think,
right, thank you.
And then one other question is, what's the size of the olive trees that you're showing as screening?
Yeah, those are double XL field dugs. That's the main change that we switched in our landscape plan is we wanted 20 feet immediate screening. So instead of relying on the existing olives to reach maturity, we switched those out for double XL field dugs.
So they would be installed at 20 feet?
Yeah, 20 feet height at planting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you're obviously looking up, so they'll look even larger.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? No questions. Public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please step forward or raise your hand. I don't have any speaker slips. So we'll bring it back to the board for comments. Ms. Frosher.
Well, you know, I've been concerned about this because the rural ridgeline guidelines are very defined, and every architect that works in these areas has to deal with them. So for us to make an exemption is not to be taken lightly, because it puts into jeopardy all the work that everybody does to work within these guidelines. So yeah, I'm dismayed that you got as far as you did without being aware of what those were. What has the grading done to your walls in the back? What has it? And is there the potential to do still more? Because the big concern is that, unfortunately, I mean, it's a beautiful house. It's a beautiful design, and most of it is very low slung. But the part that is most visible from Toro Canyon is the part that exceeds. And the screening becomes very important, but you know, landscape's not a guarantee. A fire can come through and wipe them out, or they can be changed. So we still have to look at, we're approving that wall of glass at that corner that's most visible from Toro Canyon. So I guess my question is, what has the grading done to, you know, impact everything else? Because of course I know it is. It's probably making you have higher walls at the back. And what more can you do? Because it is still a pretty big percent of exceedance, even though it's not all at 21. But the 21 is right at the corner that is most visible.
I would like to answer that as sensitively as I can. One of the first comments in the first meeting was accentuate the undulation of the roof to and which to kind of correspond to the undulation in the plan, which I, you know, took as you guys really understood this design. And so the lowest point in the for the ceilings on the interior are 8 feet plates. So to get any undulation, it's only going to go up from there. And I understand that it happens at the prevalent corner, but that's because we're following the topography, which is another design criteria, is to be sensitive to the outcroppings and the topography of the site. Grading has always, in my experience, been a very important issue with the planning department, with the review boards. So we're trying to be sensitive to that as well, and not dig out this earth, you know, and export that, you know, appropriately. As was pointed out by Alex, that the exceedance into that past that 16-foot area is a sloping element. It's not, we're not really proposing something in your face, like along the entire edifice there. We feel that with the screening, although as you say, it's not a guarantee, we're really minimizing the impact of the view onto the site. So to answer your question, we could very well dig it lower, but we're going to then run into you know, the issue of overgrading. We're not overbuilding this site, as you saw, by any means, in terms of the allowable buildable envelope that's been approved. So we feel like we're being incredibly sensitive and not compromising the design of this house.
Well, just as a response to the early comments for more undulation in the roofs, I think that comes with the very beginnings of trying to get a handle on what you're designing and not having enough information about the site sections, the grading, the walls, the civil, everything that comes with the evolution of the design.
Understood. One other point, the story poles as requested have been up for in excess of 2 months, and the only comments we've had from neighborhood or any requests for information have been from general contractors trying to land the project. So there are no public comments negative public comments for this project.
Okay. All set, Val. Mr. Verdiak?
Well, I agree with Valerie. Unfortunately, the highest point occurs at the closest point to the road where it would be most visible. And so I'm reluctant to go along with that. And it just seems that that's an unfortunate circumstance that I don't want to say I haven't tried to deal with it. I know you have, but it's still an obvious fault.
Mr. Peugeot?
I can live with that minor exceedance of height, and I think it's a beautiful project.
Ms.
Yeah.
Grubb?
You want me to go last?
Well, in regards to the landscape plan, I think it's very sensitive to the site and addresses the screening pretty well. It looks like you're proposing site sizes that make sense for screening on the southwest or southeast end. And I think I can be in support of the projection because it's minimal and screened. I understand that it's, yeah, it is a big decision to set precedent, but so most of my comments are about landscape.
Mr. Vice Chair Blumer?
Yeah, I agree with Val and John that, we have design guides and guidelines and ordinances, and they need to be enforced and followed and respected. And there's a lot of work that goes into those, and they're there for purpose. So, but I also think of design guidelines and the building code kind of like gears of a machine. And if gears in the machine don't have any oil, then they tend to get locked up and nothing happens. So the thing that kind of is the lubricant of design guidelines and building code are the exceptions, and those things allow everything to actually work eventually. And I think it's important to always be cognizant of precedent and intent, right? And there's plenty of precedent that this board has shown in allowing for minor projections through height limits in the interest of good design and other mitigating factors that we think balance out discussion. So to me, I'm looking at this as a balancing act, and there has to be a little give and there has to be a little bit of take. One of the things this applicant's done is lowered the finished floors, which has actually helped. And I think they've given a lot to that because it just makes for a bigger project. But there's a couple of things about this project that I really like. I like that when you look at the building envelope and you look at the topography, that the house is actually a genuine response to those site conditions, and it literally follows the contours, which helps it nestle into the site, and it helps it actually achieve what I think a lot of the design intent that we see in the design guidelines is pointed towards. So I think it succeeds there. I also like that, it's a single story residence that actually springs from an 8-foot plate. When we're talking about multi-million-dollar homes in this region, 8-foot plates are kind of rare sometimes. And we're usually starting at much higher plate height. So that's very reasonable. And I think it's an intentional part of the design. So we did ask for undulation in the roof. A little architectural exuberance and making sure that this building looks amazing and beautiful like the rest of the neighborhood has to be the goal here. It's a minor penetration. I think the problem that we had in improving your project is your documentation didn't start with this kind of an explanation. And, this makes it a lot easier to understand what you're doing and to kind of contextualize what this little nugget is that's popping out. And I think it's a totally supportable project. And I'd like to move to, I'm actually prepared to make a proposed approval, preliminary approval today. I'll make a motion for that.
Okay. Well, I don't have much to add. I missed the story polling site visit, so I won't speak to the roof line. But I'm deferring to my colleagues here, so I would entertain a motion if you want to make one.
Well, we do have an issue here. We don't have, I'm a little disappointed the applicant doesn't have their landscape plan submitted, but we haven't crossed the threshold of an approval yet. So we need to take in those documents that they handed us today. I want to make sure that those are included in the record for the approval today. So
We asked planning to make sure that because last time I was here, the same thing happened. They were.
Planner has this.
yeah, I'm not concerned about the planner not seeing the landscape plan because
No.
I only want to do preliminary approval today, but I'd like to, I want to condition that this has to come back for full board review for final with the, with the requisite drawings, including the landscape plan. So my proposal for preliminary approval is contingent upon a full board review on the next round.
Another option is to give positive comments and come back for
Yeah,
prelim and final.
well, I'm gonna make a motion. I want to move this forward, so.
Yeah, it is. Concept prelim.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for preliminary approval as submitted with the condition that the applicant return for full board on final with requisite documents, including a full landscape plan.
Speak to the exemption.
Yeah, well, and the board, I would include in the motion that the board finds the minor, penetration through the height limitation to be minor in nature and acceptable and worthy of an exception based on the criteria of good design,
So, Haley just
quality
pointed
architecture.
something out before we move forward with your motion that at the bottom of our agenda here, it says this from the last meeting, this project may return for further conceptual review. So is that an accurate statement or, how?
Are you asking me? Because I
No,
know it
you-
says right here that it's agendized for further conceptual and preliminary, so that's done deal.
Well, we just need to make sure that that's what we
It
said
says
last time.
it says that you could come back for more conceptual, but we agendized it.
No, it says this project may return for further
Yeah,
conceptual review.
Like he could have come back
That's
and
not
done
how it
another
works.
conceptual.
Joe,
But
Joe,
it's
do you,
agendized as a preliminary agenda.
we've run into this problem before.
Now you quit.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to weigh in on this. So what, okay, sorry, hopefully I can
Can't hear you, Joe.
take this better. 1 second. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the most important is what's actually on the agenda itself. So if the agenda says for further conceptual and preliminary, that is what is available for the board to act on. The note at the bottom is it's simply a note which is usually direction to the planner, which gives us an idea of what the board directed us to do.
Great. So we have a motion on the table.
I'd like to add something to the motion. I believe that the landscape architects have not had the chance to review the landscape, correct?
Correct. Very briefly,
Very
just
briefly.
now.
Yes, so I would add to the motion that be aware that some of the landscape elements may change the final. I mean, it seems like because they have only been seen.
I can speak to some of the changes if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically some caveat that, don't expect because it's here, it's gonna be exactly fine. But if you want a preliminary now. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, good.
So do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? One opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right, item number 3. Pasquinelli, new residence, request of Robert Foley, architect for Rebecca and Tim Pasquinelli for preliminary final approval to allow demolition of an existing residence and construction of a new 6,835 square foot residence. A 1,119 square foot attached garage and 23 square foot underground garage and basement mechanical room, new pool and spa. This is located at 4055 Mariposa Drive in Hope Ranch and last heard March 31st this year. And gentlemen, your names for the record.
Don Nolte. Robert Foley.
Okay, I think we just have one comment from last time. Applicant has adequately responded to previous comments. Proposal is acceptable as designed. Some members would appreciate further reduction of the second story by 6 to 12 inches. So, gentlemen, if you want to just take a brief few moments and tell us what's changed.
Yes, so we have prepared if you could scroll up on the drawing, we have our colors and finished board of the materials. Below the renders on that page. Yeah, so the home, we were using the George Davidson roof tile that's being used at the different missions in California. We're using steel and iron doors, and we have our hooded light. Some exterior wood in the rafters is shown. We're using a lighter wood and just let it weather naturally. Since we last met, we took the whole building and sunk it into the ground 12 more inches. And so we're safely under the height limit. I'm scroll through these drawings, I'll demonstrate that. This is the existing plan and those 3 large clusters of trees. Is there one here?
Yeah.
So, could you go up one more drawing, please? Thank you. Yeah, that large cluster of trees is going to be removed and then opens up a lot of water views. And then additionally, we lowered the house and lowered the ridge too. So
And what are those trees?
the podocarpus. Yeah, they're
Ornamentals.
They're ficus and podocarpus. It's a mix of a few trees.
oh, it's Sam.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Sorry to interrupt.
So just one note that the existing house, finished floor, it's 247.3 or something. Yeah. We are now down to 245. So we're 2.5 feet lower than this. Last time we were put.
You can carry on with the drawings. So this is the site layout. Sam will go over this in detail. But it's pretty much exactly how we saw it last time, except the drive is depressed 1 foot.
Is that really the only change?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to go through the whole.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go just to the fast as I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you can see at the top drawing there, we're safely under the ridge, was kissing the dash line of the roof, and so now, yeah. And, we're balancing the cut and fill almost at some export. Next on.
We can skip some of this. Yeah, but I think we're good.
Okay, this is civil, and we'll define grading and erosion control next time. That's the grading plan. Next, detail, site walls, retaining walls. And that's erosion control.
next sheet, we'll let Sam take over from here, then we can go to the next sheet, you've seen those before.
Yeah, thanks, Don. So that sheet just kind of shows the existing conditions. The property has a well-screened border on the Cantera side, the west side, and also the north and east side. But that is it's an older casuarina. It's been hacked on for many years. So we're proposing to remove the north and the east hedge and add a new Laurus nobilis hedge, which I'll show in the landscape planting plan. We are removing those trees we mentioned. We are saving the stone pines on the west side and a jacaranda, and we're going to be transplanting a really nice little olive. And then next to the house, on the two-story portion on the southeast side, we have a beautiful jacaranda that's going to be kind of preserved and anchor and soften that corner. So that's a tree preservation plan. Let's move on to the next sheet, please. This sheet is our site plan. You can see we have two entrances off Mariposa. We're going to maintain those two and have a kind of horseshoe drive drop off where we have our parking in front of the house inside the setback, which is a requirement of Hope Ranch. And then we have a motor court on the west side that drives into the garage. The garage does not face Mariposa. And the hardscape will be pavers and stonework through the house in the back, around the pool. We'll have kind of a gravel garden with arbors and roses or flowers on the southwest side. We have some terrace walls to create the flat hardscape off of the main living spaces. And then we have some stairs and pathways to access for maintenance and orchard and some screening of the house from the south. It's really not seen from any of the neighbors. And again, Don and Robert explained that it's tucked in nicely. You want to continue on? I'll talk about the planting. We've got all the low hydro zones are in the purple, so it's very drought tolerant scheme. We do have a lawn for the property owners that have grandkids, and this is going to be a family kind of compound for them to enjoy, the outdoors. And we do have a nice view to the south and to the west. Next slide, please.
I think we can wrap it up, Sam. If nothing's changed, then we.
Yeah, it's not changed, Chris. Thank you. So the landscape plan, I'll just explain, will be one more sheet, I think, 2 more sheets. It's just we're bringing in some full-size olive trees to complement Don's architecture, and it'll be quite classic and very strong, high-quality landscape throughout the entire project. But just mentioning that hedges are being changed out to help supplement the neighbor's privacy on all sides as well as ours. But I think that kind of summarizes most of what we've done just as a design to complement the site and the new house.
Thanks,
So, thank you.
You can go into the architectural drawings next, please.
Let's go to detail. Elevation and detail.
I've seen landscape. Next.
Some site details.
There's floor plans, and then I'll dimension the call out with the windows. Next page. So the elevation, you've seen these gradually change, and now it's even dropped another foot. So we've just furthered the details for the job, and balconies, wrought iron work, beads.
Second floor, first floor. The next sheet has balcony detail.
I was looking for the window details because, they are recessed and all that. I didn't see them. Oh, that's it. Well, that's not, that's some of it.
Column detail, this is an iron grill that's near the front door. As far as the details for the doors and windows, they're all steel doors and windows. The plaster wraps. Some of the doors are in 2-foot walls, some are very few plumbing. And there's a few that are in minor doors and windows. But the details are the same sheet. There's all the detailing for the doors and windows. One elevator dimensions. Actually, there's radius doors and interior doors. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Questions from the board? No questions. So public comment, is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Raise your hand. Or step forward, see no one, comments? Anyone?
It's very nicely done and detailed. I was looking at that particular thing with, is that the copper roof that you're using? Yeah. Very interesting. I was mentioned, I think you should come back with the recessed details for the doors. You know, you can submit to the building department, just submit it as a, for final, you can get a preliminary approval now, you can submit to the building department. But I think you should provide those details because they're important. They are 12 inch, they have some very thick walls, right?
Yes, very much.
I don't see the details there, they're not shown.
We're keeping a constant reveal. We'll split the thickness of the wall in all cases. And I've been doing this for 20 years.
Okay, all right.
I mean,
I will not
we
have
can
this.
show you a thickness of our walls on the
No,
floor.
I understand, but okay, that's all right.
Other comments?
Yeah, I think it's a really nice project. Well done.
Here we are here for prelim and final, if someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion for preliminary and so
You want to review those after? Just as a condition of approval that Alex takes a look at them.
We can have a final and then review after.
Yeah, it's not really review after final. We've done that before where if
Okay.
we're concerned about a minor issue, we can still give them final.
Yeah.
With the,
I don't doubt that this architect will do the right thing. It's obvious with the design, but I just want to be consistent with when we approve projects that we do have, these details, because some people refuse and they obfuscate and they say one thing and do another, and we just want to be consistent. So if there's a way to approve this project and have everybody happy and come back and submit some of the details of how these recessed windows and the 12-inch walls will be installed, then that would be perfect.
Could we submit those on 8.5 by 11 to the planner and get them before when they do it?
Perfect.
okay, so I'll make the motion for preliminary and final with that caveat that details for the windows and doors are
presented
submitted
to,
after final.
I'll second the motion.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item. Yeah, I was. Val. Okay, thank you. Moving on, item number 4, Cartagena. Addition and accessory structures, request of Jose Sanchez, agent for Robert and Robin Cartagena. For final review of demolition of existing residence and construction of new at 1060 Monte Drive in Hope Ranch. Last heard May 5th this year. And do we have the applicant here? Please state your name for the record.
Jose Sanchez.
Katie Klein, landscape architect.
Okay, so I'll read through the comments from last time and then turn it over to you. A planting plan is appropriate and general hardscape materials are appropriate. Study materials and color of landscape retaining walls. Board prefers darker color. Consider utilizing alternate material for landscape retaining walls to provide interest. Study use of planting pockets at base of retaining walls and restudy window fenestration in terms of achieving mid-century modern aesthetic. So Jose, I'll turn it over to you if you can give us a brief synopsis of changes that have been made.
Yeah, so there's comments are pretty minor. So I'll just go over the sheets that we revised. If you could start off on sheet A901 and I'll cover item C from the comments.
Can you help us? I think you have 5.
It might, yeah, it was a big file, so we had to break them up.
You said 90.
A901.
901. Next. Is in order?
Yeah, they should be. We broke them up into 4 PDFs. I'm assuming it might be the second or third PDF.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, great. So if you zoom to view 5, this is where this image is kind of where this comment arose. We were previously proposing some more, rectangular fenestrations flanking that main entry area. So we did do several studies to give it a more mid-century modern feel. So what we did is we decided to mimic the transom windows from the front entry onto the windows that are stucco flanking that entry side, which gave it a bit more glazing, which fits more of the mid-century modern feel. We felt like that was pretty successful in acknowledging that comment. And then if you go to A302, I can go ahead and just list. We previously listed all of the materials, which I think the board was satisfied with. So we have black standing seam roof with white stucco. That kind of middle massing area is vertical grain cedar. We have black windows, black light fixtures, and then the black standing seam roof on sheet A302. So nothing has changed there. This remains from our previous review. And then if you go to sheets A802 and 803 and 804, we have all of our details. So on sheet A802, you can see our chimney cap detail. We're proposing a steel chimney cap. 802, there you go. A steel chimney cap with 1-inch perforations, just to keep, it's going to be black, so to keep consistent with the architecture. Next sheet, 803, we have the window detail, so you can see they're pretty, basic and simple. We have the windows and just stucco going to the window, and then we have the siding details as well. And then 804 shows the door details as well, just matching the windows as well with the stucco. And then comments B can be talked with Katie Klein.
Hi all. I'll just clarify, we did study the walls being a board form, but it was cost prohibitive. So we wanted to just keep it to match architecture. We did do an elevation to show that front wall. If you go to L6 of the landscape plan, you can see the height of the wall. And we added vines, the evergreen grape, to grow along that wall right there. You can zoom in on the bottom. So you can see the scale, the walls are really not that large. So we're adding evergreen grape, and then we also do have Casuarina cousinet to grow over the wall in that area. So hopefully that helps, that elevation helps to clarify that the walls are not too tall and the landscaping satisfies the screening.
Okay. Anything else from you all for your presentation?
No, that's it.
Okay, back to the board for questions. Anyone?
I have a question. What color are the site retaining walls? We had expressed a preference for darker.
Correct. We decided we wanted to keep it to match architecture, so it is still a white. And we're using landscape to make it more green, essentially, in the front.
Sorry, Katie, and curbs, the curbs are gonna be plastic white too, all along the driveway.
Sorry, if you point it out, I can tell you, but yes, yes, the front will be low walls. They're like 18 inches curbs.
Okay, so like flanking the driveway going up, it looks like from the civil plans that they're like curb height, like 6 inches. Are those all painted white curb or?
I think we probably will do those concrete once it gets to around 6 inches.
Because the rendering shows those as 3-foot walls, it looks like.
Wherever it's 3 feet, we're definitely doing it all stucco.
Can you point out where are there vine pockets per the comments from before, or how is?
Yeah, if you zoom in to the planting plan along that staircase, they're pretty small. That's why we did the elevation too, to support, but it's all along that front wall.
So then, at the street.
Yeah, at the street where there's that turnout for fire.
Sorry, Katie, it's too grainy on the screen. I can't see what vine do you have on the walls?
Yeah, it's evergreen grape. So it's pretty small there, but you can see there's little pockets. And the elevation helps to see how many there are. So it's 3 on either side. And then as you go up the drive, there's another one. So 4 on the right side.
So are those walls facing what, north or? Because evergreen grape.
South.
Those are facing south. Those will get fried on that wall. Evergreen grape, they don't take really full sun, I would think.
Yeah, we can do something else then that will really make sure it survives. The client does not want anything that will attract bees. So we were just trying to do something that was evergreen. But we can switch it to something else that.
Just, I guess, study it and see if, do the research on the plant and so that would be vine trained, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question on those retaining walls. They seem to go up and down all over the place, like from the street. I think there's some elevation, right? You got some, like on the rendering, maybe like Jonathan, if you can go to the front rendering.
There's also a rendering of that on the landscape.
Yeah, but it's a little bit, it's more like 3D. It's more like an oblique wall. With a rendering, so it's a page with.
Sheet A901.
What page would that be? Okay, that one there. Yeah.
And just an FYI to the board, the site design was not fully developed in these views. These views were more developed because the board had initially asked for some street views so that they can see the architecture.
So these are not necessarily accurately representing the heights of the wall.
They're pretty close, but they're not 100% accurate. Okay.
It's just like they look disorganized. I mean, they're will be made out of block, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
The walls will be block, and usually block walls don't look like that because they are just so difficult to build. There's something awkward about the design of these walls. Okay, please. Yeah. And
questions. Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone from the public?
Well, I have a question.
Oh, right.
No, I'm sorry. The paving at the entrance to the garage, it seems excessive. Is that for fire department turnaround? I mean, to the north, if we're looking at the south elevation now, on the north end side of the parking, there seems like a lot of paving. Is that necessary?
The paving on the north side of the structure is overflow parking, which is required by Hope Branch. But Katie could touch based on the materiality of the driveway and then the overflow parking.
Yeah, we're doing permeable pavers to break up that area and make it feel a little softer. But it is the required, you can see the triangles, the parking that we're required to have. And then we need the backup space from the garage.
Okay. Okay, other questions? Okay, anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand or step forward. I see no one. So comments from the board. Mr. Verdiak.
Well, I think that the change in the windows makes a big difference. It seems like it's all part of one scheme now, at least to me anyway. And I think that the you know, there's a lot of retaining walls showing. And I don't know what you can do about that. You could put some of those, you could plant ivy down there. It's a thought. No.
No ivy.
Okay, no ivy.
Ms. Frosher, comments.
Yeah, I like the evolution of the windows and it looks good, but I feel like the retaining walls should be a darker color and not be white. There's too much of them. And I know you want to plant in front of them. That's not completely resolved, but you could start with a darker color on those walls.
Okay, Mr. Pujo.
I agree on the comment on the windows, and I think they look much better. I think it's, they look very good. I wonder if they could be recessed. I mean, I understand there's a complexity and there's a waterproofing and so forth, but recessed windows would look will give the house more character. So I leave that floating for the rest of the board's opinion on that. I agree with the comments on the retaining walls, not just that they are, it's just like the whole access, it seems disorganized, and they have curves and changes in plane elevation and in shape, and there seems to be there could be a better arrangement. There seems to be a drawing of a fence, of a gate with a fence going across from east to west, and it's also pretty awkward. It goes across, then crosses the driveway, then goes across, makes another jump around it, and then it goes to the west. It's got to be a cleaner solution to the access for both pedestrians and vehicles. That part I don't think is resolved. So those two things, a question about recessing the windows, and also the issue about the access, the retaining walls, and the whole layout of the access to the house.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask a quick question of the board? Because I think I have not seen this at all yet, but the black roof, was that discussed previously? Black standing seam, and you're feeling okay about that? It's black. Just curious if it was discussed before. Okay, so let's move on then. Mr. Bloomer.
I'm appreciating the improvements to the architecture and the windows, as the other board members have mentioned. I'd like the applicant to study the driveway area next to the garage, as John noted, that it's a hell of a lot of impermeable paving there that probably could be I mean, if there's a half-court basketball court plan there, fine, but it just seems like a lot, and it could be punctuated with something a little softer, that'd be appreciated. But specifically, this area here at the entry, in the hog wire fence. I don't have any problem with hog wire, but it's just poorly conceived. This is not very well designed, this entry. It's a very narrow, uncomfortable stairway that turns left and right with a gate in the middle of it. And it's like a little slot, and it's poorly designed, and it needs to be rethought. And probably a great opportunity to create a beautiful street presence, but it's kind of failing. The other thing is that it could also benefit from some step retainage. Like, it doesn't have to just be one boundary. There could be, I still want to be mindful of providing security to the occupants, but some stepping and relief in the kind of linear quality of the line, creating some landscape pockets in front of it, more than just attaching vines to the outside of it and running pavement right up to it. There could be pushed back, and there could be a little planter there, and then could be some stepping. Could also, given the location, introduce some sandstone boulders, which you're going to probably find on the project anyway, and break it up between nice natural sandstone boulders and hard retaining walls, which is totally usual for projects in this region to do. And, you know, all things being considered, you know, find a nice warm gray or complementary color to the house and the landscape, and get rid of I don't think anybody's too fired up about the white painted hard retaining walls, especially the way they're designed. So I could probably get with them if they were broken up more and integrated more with landscaping, and, you know, disconnected and connected and complemented with some stone. But the way you're doing it, it's lame. I don't like it.
Okay, Ms. Grubb.
So in that vein too, I think the plant palette is all acceptable. I think the materials that have been chosen lend themselves to being pretty rigid and like require kind of clean geometry. So I think, to Josh's point, breaking it up with sandstone or some other more flexible material, both for the step material and the retaining walls, because, you know, if you have something like slab stone steps that can be set into the grade where you don't need as many cheek walls and retaining walls, reset the grade with some boulders. I think the sweep of the retaining walls at the pedestrian entry could be a cool effect if it didn't then undulate with the grade to either side. Like if it was felt really intentional and then nestled back into the landscape as it heads up the driveway. So I think maybe an opportunity for like a battered sandstone retention along the driveway, where you have so many contours coming at kind of uneven points along the driveway. And then the plaster walls really become the focal point at the pedestrian entrance, and you can resolve that.
Okay, Mr. Verdiak had another comment.
Yeah, I want to reinforce what Josh said. I think that entry stair should be restudied, and it certainly should be wider and maybe another intermediate landing, so the stairs could spill out a little towards the front and be more inviting. It's kind of a hostile looking entrance. That'd be my comment.
Okay, any last comments from anyone? Okay, I haven't seen this before, so I'm gonna refrain from comment, but based on what I have seen, I do agree with most of what has been said. So moving it along, we are here for final, but it doesn't sound like we're getting there today. So I think, return for final with the comments as read. Joe, do you need clarification on what those comments are?
No, Mr. Chair, I think I got all the comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. So we will see you all next time. Thank you. All right, moving on then. Item number 5, Verducho, new single family dwelling. A request of Jose Luis Esparza, architect for Sergio Verducho, for further conceptual review of a new 3,000 square foot residence with a 600 square foot attached garage located at 766 Mission Park Drive in Mission Canyon, last heard June 21st, 2019. And so the applicant is here. Please state your name for the record.
Jose Esparza, I'm the architect.
Okay, Jose, thank you. I'll go ahead and read through the comments from last time. It's been 4 years. Is that right? Are these comments still applicable or has the project changed completely?
I will respond to each comment.
Okay, then I'll just turn it over to you
Okay.
and save some time. And so whenever you're ready, run us through. I'm gonna set a timer here for 10 minutes and
Okay.
the floor is yours.
If we go to the second. Here's some renderings of the project. Comment number E was that the eaves and the hips were unbalanced, so we redesigned the second floor, moved it around to have it more over the center of over the first floor and eliminate a lot of those awkward hips. A much balanced, more balanced elevations. As you can see, looking at the bottom right elevation, which is looking at the front door. The top right one is looking straight at the front door with a small deck overhanging over the garage. The left two are looking at the building from the rear. If we can go to the next page, which is the site plan. We've done some major changes to the site plan. We've gone from a slab-on-grade design to a raised wood foundation. And eliminated a lot of the grading that we would propose, a lot of the fill that we're going to be bringing them to the site. The areas that are hatched, which are here all the way around, all of those are areas that the grade is going to remain natural. A lot of that had to do with respecting the drip line of the oak trees. So the building was moved, I had it adjacent to this setback, and now it's adjacent to this setback. So the building moved 4 feet 4 inches in that direction. The fire truck turnaround, which is item A, is provided here. It's a 3-point turn for the fire truck with driveway access going up to Mission Park. And this is a landlocked lot, so one of the other questions or items was to look at the adjacent buildings. So if we can go to the next page, which is you can see that Mr. Verduzco owns this property as well. So we're going to provide access through here. So you can see that we're not even close to any of the buildings. If we look to the south, there's the next, there's a considerable amount of distance to that building. And if we look to the west, there's a considerable amount of distance to that building, as well as on the east. So the only buildings that are close are buildings that Mr. Verduzco owns. We go. The other question was the arborist report, which I've duplicated and answered to on sheets B1, which are on the second PDF. So if we can go to the top of it. So here are the tree protection notes, management, and all of the areas are going to be conserved within natural, are hatched, and
we can go to the next, page. That, this is the tree report, and, with, D4, page D4. Here's the photos that we provided, the arborist provided of the trees. And then the next page, we're missing one page.
Can you sum up the result of that arborist report?
Yeah, so basically, we're preserving all of the oak trees and respecting the drip line. We're allowed to encroach a certain amount that we're right below that. Allowed to encroach.
Okay, so no mitigation required.
Correct, no trees are being.
Okay.
And I already started to address the roof line, so if we can go back to the first, look at the elevations and how that was changed. So this is the front elevation. If you notice, before we had a two-story wall here, and now the building steps back from that. You know, this is an approximation of like the oak tree canopy on that side. And by moving it away, we're allowing the not only the root structure to be maintained, but also the canopy. So this whole area is now being that natural grade. And that's the side where all of the design. That's it's looking at it from the other side. And so that because this is sloping down the grade changes there, and we're doing sandstone veneer for the area below the plate floor, the finished floor plate. We've also provided, if we can go to the next page, which is the second, the roof plans. So in roof plan, you can see that now we have a one-story roof basically all around the first floor, and then the second floor is stepped back on there. With I think we've avoided awkward tips on the first floor. And then if we go to the next page, these are our sections. So we're doing a fill in the back where we have the deck and providing a little bit of yard for the residents at those exits. But basically underneath the house we've kept it natural grade except for the area right adjacent to the front of the house, which we're going to have to cut just to provide the 18 inches clear. So we've done a lot to minimize the grading. Now our grading is almost balanced. We were going to be bringing in a lot of dirt to build up the pad, and now we're only bringing in 86 cubic yards of dirt, and the rest is balanced on the side. We're also providing all of the details and the color board. Hoping to move on to the next stage. As noted, it's been a while since we were here, and we've had to deal with other issues. So hopefully, if you'd like to go through those, I'd be glad to. But we provided detail sheets, which are sheets 9 as well. The electrical plans, the color board,
I think we're not quite at the detail stage
Sure.
yet, but color board would be helpful.
The colors are called out on the elevations, but if we can go to the color. Let's see if you want to see the actual sample. So that's our light fixture. Hooded. That's it.
Is there a color board somewhere in there? Is that what you have in your hand there?
I do have it here. I submitted it. I don't know, accepted.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, what was the response to item D? Size appears too large for site and appears too close to Oaks. I know you moved it. Was there any reduction in size?
We balanced the second floor on the over the first floor. The square footage is very similar. We do have a third of an acre, so we still kept it at a 4-bedroom house.
Okay, that's fine. So let's move to questions.
Good question. Can you explain the discrepancy between the 3D model and the elevations regarding the west elevation, specifically the volume that the chimney is attached to? Looks like you have a gable on one and a hip on the other. What we're actually looking at. 3D model and the elevations don't seem to correlate very well.
Not sure I understand.
Go to the west elevation.
Fireplace should be coming out of
So that shows fireplace. It's probably 2 feet above the top of the hip, right?
Right.
I'll go to the rendering. Also, it also shows stone going across the whole wainscot. And here, in the rendering, top left, it's completely different fireplace, and a completely different roof condition. The finishes aren't the same. So what's going on?
my render. I think that's a mistake in the render.
So the elevation, we should discard the renderings in terms of their accuracy, is what you're saying? Not represent the current design.
They represent the bulk of the house.
Well, they either represent the current design of the dome, like it's architecture, so they need to be exactly the same, not just kind of the same.
Understood.
These aren't artistic renderings; they're 3D models.
Yes, and that portion is.
Okay, other questions? Can we go to the site plan again that shows the fire hammerhead? So it seems as though the whole front yard is paving. So can you show us with a pointer there, maybe, and zoom in, Jonathan, to that front area, and so we can try to discern where the hammerhead is and see if there's any opportunity to reduce paving.
So
Go down. There.
So
So I see, is this,
right, that's the.
okay, and then where does it go from there? I guess up and over. I mean, it's hard to tell what's happening.
Yeah, it goes, the driveway goes this way. That's the edge of the driveway.
Edge of driveway is here,
Yeah.
okay. So this is an existing residence?
That is an existing residence, the adjacent property.
Okay. So what's happening right here?
They have a driveway that goes that way.
Oh, I see. Okay, so this is driveway.
So that this is gonna be dedicated to just this residence.
But he owns this also.
Well, they have their own driveway going the other way.
But this is this Mr. Verduzco's?
Yes, yeah, it's his property adjacent.
Okay.
to both sides.
Okay, other questions? Okay, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please. Do you fill out a speaker slip by chance? Okay, you can do that afterwards, but give you 3 minutes. Whenever you're ready with, starting with your name.
Sure. My name is Eric Fuller and I live on the east side, in the east neighbor. And Sergio is a great neighbor. We loved that he's moved in and he's done great work to the property. I think a concern I would have on this is it's pretty darn bulky, his size. I'm not sure what the plate line, the final height is, but the way the slope goes down, if he's going to carry that roof line straight across, it's going to be kind of a big site for both sides to look at, especially on our end, because we'd be looking down. So I'm not sure what the plan is on that as far as, does it say how tall the building is on his plans?
Yes, well, real quick before we do that, where are you located? Where's your house?
Towards LA East. Straight across.
Over here? Oh, east.
Right there. Yeah, right.
Over there, okay.
Yes.
Okay, and there are heights shown, so if we go to the elevations, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just try and, I guess my concern and request would be that it be softened on that east side, and us, the west side person's gonna speak as well. But just carrying that height, it seems it's gonna really be a big house on the property. And also if he could put some kind of fence or plant something to soften it. Because I think those. And is there also gonna be a patio on the upper left? I guess it'll be the southeast corner. Is that what he calls out for?
It's like it.
The second floor.
Yeah.
It's looking north.
Southeast is here.
Looking north. Okay, there's nothing over that deck. Okay.
This is
That's a veranda, right? Okay.
it's not great, but it's.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for your time, but
Okay.
that's our concerns, is to soften it, maybe drop the roof line a little bit so it's not just a big
Great.
monster.
Thank you. And if you don't mind filling out in the back corner, there's a speaker slip, and give it to Jonathan up here. Thank you.
Nancy Ferguson, and I live next door. And first I want to get orientated. So here's Mission Park Drive.
Is that way up here, Jose?
Go down.
So Mission Park Drive is up here.
My property's right above it.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, first of all, it's really large. How high is it?
What is the height, gentlemen? 30 feet.
That's very high. And also, it's 4 bedrooms, which is a bathroom, and a center area. It's designed to be a rooming house with 4 different residents. It's not designed as a single family resident, which is our zoning. And secondly, is the access, has it been changed, or is it still off Mission Park Drive?
The address
Yeah, that's
shown here as Mission Park Drive, 766.
okay. That part of the road from my house to Glendale City is 11 to 16 feet wide. We cannot pass each other on that side road. And only one car can go down or one car can go up at a time. Nobody can ever park there, or somebody gets out there like me, because there's no room. So it's not, and we like it that way. But what we don't like is this one on Venice area and one on our street, Mission Park, where they have dug into the original narrow old pavement and made a traffic problem on our street, especially Mission Park. So to have an access from there is incredibly ridiculous. This is not a proper access. And so what can you say about the access changing? You aren't saying this, but it changed the Western Road. As this is something right there. We have a narrow road, but the right of way is 40 feet. But we don't want to find it like the world quality of life. So as long as everybody honors the original width of our street, we can live with that fine. But otherwise, when people and improper entrance, like that would be, it would be dangerous. And so we already have, being a private road, we've already got that problem. And another residence with 3 accidents, little accidents happening because one of our neighbors has dug into the original road about 5 feet. The big bush, that's at 740. And nobody, no matter how anybody is nice, he won't change it. So it's just a real problem. And
Okay.
this would be another real problem, that kind of access there. Also, as I said, it's landlocked. It's a fire trap. And the view, our beautiful oak trees. And last time you were instructed to bring back a plan of both lots of all the oak trees. Do you have that?
There's an arborist report and yeah, that was the 3 minutes and that bell that you heard about a minute ago. So if you could wrap up your comments, please.
And also, last time the architect said the first plan was 2 stories and then another 6 feet on top of that. And they didn't know where it was. And so I wondered if that extra space up before it's exploded.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Very concerned. We can't understand why access to like 2 species is the access of unnecessary. And also, I have one more question. How wide is the access? It's still only 12 feet, going by 5 houses. It does go by 5 houses.
Fire department requires 60 foot passes.
So
So is it 16 feet now?
okay, so can you speak to a little bit of what she was getting at? Is this existing or is this all new?
No, this is the proposed access.
So there's no road there currently.
Correct.
Okay.
It's gonna grant access.
What about, is this his property line here? So what's happening right there? Whose property is that?
That's street by.
That's, we own to the middle of the street. So I, next to the corner, I own to the middle of the street where it is.
Okay.
The opposite side of the middle street. And the middle of the street is not exactly the center of the street.
Okay, we'll get into it, ma'am. We need to move on here. So we need accurate representation here of exactly what's being proposed and what's existing when you come back for that area. Okay. Thank you. And also, ma'am, if you could fill out a speaker slip in the back and bring it to Jonathan. Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Okay, I see no one. Comments from the board. Mr. Peugeot.
So we're gonna need a little bit more information on some things. One is the idea of the access. This drawing is good. What it lacks is the lines. I mean, you're showing some property lines, but not the others. So it's hard for us to basically understand exactly who lives where and how does it impact. I believe that corner. I would imagine that there's a property line going this way, maybe, right? From this, yeah, and maybe either from the existing maps, maybe you can add it to overlap it, or maybe the surveyor can pick some of the the grades and the oak. Yes, we need a little bit more information regarding the access. And that's one thing. Another thing that you can move this up a little bit. No, the other way. Sorry. Yeah, I think somebody that spoke was this neighbor right here was the person that was.
Yeah.
This one right here.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so there's quite a distance on this side. This portion of the property, this wall is 30 feet high, which is quite a bit, but it's far away from neighbors. I understand it's a complex, it's a difficult project, but there are several. I mean, one is the issue of the access and all the paving that requires, and how that can be softened, and if that road is bulldozed, what happens on each side? Is there a fence? Is there a hedge on each side? Or what exactly how that is softened? I like the style. If we go to the elevations, I think I don't remember how it was before, but I think it has a style, which kind of makes sense. What it does need is a little bit more organization, in the sense, like for instance, the way the second floor fits on top of the first floor. Like for instance, this is the proper way of the corner of the building. Here you have a logical sequence of one floor on top of the other. Here, on the other hand, it's a little bit off, which you can see there. It doesn't quite sit in front of the other one. They have this kind of odd arrangements where the concept that you have is of the first floor and then wrapped around, and then the second floor going above is not quite there yet. It's a nice idea, but it's not. I can see these corners. Maybe you can go to the roof plan. Maybe you can see it on the first floor, the second floor roof plans, and yeah, you get to see it like, yeah, this is what happens. This is what happens. It's a little bit off. This, like it's not. It doesn't quite make as much sense as a craftsman would have done a house. It needs to be simplified. I think what happens is it's a little bit too complex. Go back to the elevations, please. I think there's something nice about the elevations. I was wondering if this type of houses usually have like double hang windows. That this looks like a 3-foot window, a 3-foot casement. It's really pushing the limits of wind and so forth. And it's usually these kind of things are more double hang, as you have in the other elevation. I think it has some double hangs, and they're more on the vertical layout. Like, can you go to the next one, the next page? I think it is. Yeah, I think this one has. Yeah, this one. This is a more traditional craftsman. Very nicely done, like this with the outriggers. This is very changes of materials. This is well done. But then this one is different, and these other windows are, they have different things going on. So those are my comments, and the colors too. I think the color here, the roof color is perfectly fine. The siding it has a nice color. I'm not sure if going with white or such a light color works for you, but it might be acceptable. It seems that you could do better. You could have more fun with colors, I think. But those are my comments, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Verdiak.
Well, I think that it's been worked on. I think it's a pretty good composition. I think one thing that concerns me is the whole front yard is paving. And I wish there was something you could do about that. I know you need a fire department turnaround. Maybe you can get the neighbor who owns the adjacent property to dedicate a little bit of property so the fire engine could turn around there. I mean, it's unfortunate to have a house like this with, the front yard entirely paved. I mean, my comment.
Val?
Can you clarify where you have to increase the road to 16 feet? Can you go back to the site?
The road, it's the highway.
So it's the driveway that comes straight down. It's that.
Right, this is the driveway.
Is there any kind of a road there now at all? Nothing.
There's just,
Grass. No. And there's trees impacted by it? No? Even down there where you're turning in, looks like there's trees right in the middle of that.
This is a large oak tree that's right in the corner. Going facing to that.
Uh-huh. And then how about down where you're getting close to your turn in? Those two trees.
Those two trees are gonna remain. Not in the.
Okay. So, I want to reinforce what Alex was saying about the elevations. That you've got some nice elements, but that it feels too complicated. Too many hips and valleys and different roofs. And if you could simplify it, I think you could just relax the whole way that it feels in terms of its bulk. Is there a way for us to go by this site? Because it's landlocked, is there any way to see the site?
Yes, there is. There's a driveway that's right on the side. Goes all the way back to this area.
Oh, really? Because I think it would be beneficial for the board to see this site, because I don't think we can tell from these drawings what the atmosphere is really like there, the rural quality of it. I mean, that neighborhood in general is just, kind of meandering, small lanes, big oaks, smaller houses. And, I feel concerned that it's so big and that it's going setback to setback. But without seeing it and seeing the proximity to the neighbors, it's really hard to tell if it's in scale or not. It looks really big, though. It looks big for the site that it's on.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I don't know about story poles or just visiting. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Grubb?
So for the oaks that are to the east, the arborist report notes that it's gonna encroach more than 25% into the canopy, which 20% is the line where you end up having to mitigate usually, and he doesn't designate the only need to mitigate, but I think you will end up, there's just something to think about because the site is pretty constrained on where you're able to plant those mitigation oaks. So it's just something to take into account. Also, cutting in the access road is going to impact those oaks, so they should be included in the arborist report, because we'll be cutting a section for that road, so it will impact a whole side of the root system of those trees. Also, the oaks to the east of the house, I think, are being used. They're kind of mitigating the height of the proposed structure, which is great for screening, but just why I think it's really important to look at measures to protect those. And it might be worth looking at some sort of modified foundation where you can expand some of the root system, like here, type with expanding grades and not structural engineered, but ways to not have a lateral cut through the whole side of the root system. It's a little grainy on the arborist report, but it looks like some of those are pretty sized.
Bridge footings, potentially.
Generally the plant palette, I think, is Propose any landscape lighting?
Sorry?
Did you propose any landscape lighting? I don't know if that's.
No.
Okay, Mr. Bloomer.
I'm just kind of thinking about this application and proposal from three different kind of aspects. One is the things that I think are working, and then two is the documentation, and three is the ultimately your design solution on the house. So like in terms of what I think is working is, you know, I actually think the house is cited correctly. I don't know if it can be modified, but I think generally your discussions about grading and where it's sitting, kind of establishing the foundation and pad that you're building off of, I don't have any real concern about it. I hear the comments about the driveway in front of the house and minimizing the amount of paving and treating that sensitively. I think that's important. I don't generally have a problem with the drive that you have to create to get to it either. I think the architectural style is fine. Like, I think it's a nice architectural style. I think your color palettes and material palettes seem to be proper. The lighting choices on the exterior look nice. In terms of documentation, I think it's pretty disingenuous to be proposing this much detail. If you're going to come in with drawings, do them right. Like, you should have a large floor plan or site plan of the junction of this drive to the corner of the property, showing all the property lines, setbacks, everything that makes that work, and show that you're actually trying to design something that works for the neighborhood. So you have to come back with that at detail, and it needs to be something at 1/8 inch, and it needs, or maybe even a larger scale that we can actually interpret. It just, in terms of the care that is required to do something like this and the intention and to follow through on it, like the fact that the 3D model doesn't match the elevations and there's lack of clarity in the drawings, just shows a kind of a lack of care to the detail that we're actually trying to use to justify moving this forward. And it's just, you need to bring more integrity to the drawing process and to the modeling process. And if you're going to show us something, show it for purpose, because it just makes it harder for us to evaluate. I think the biggest problem I have with the house is that, kind of like Alex said, like the floor plan, I think you're going for a certain type of house, but you don't seem to be in control of the execution of it. And maybe that's because you've been focused on the site and a bunch of other things, and maybe you're still at a very formulaic state in terms of getting the house to work. There's nothing wrong with the size of the house in my mind. The floor plans seem reasonable the way you've done it, but the execution of it, the alignment between the first floor and the second floor, and the just vastly complicated roof forms that aren't working. You have a balcony off the master suite facing north towards other residences, which makes I don't even understand why you even contemplate doing that. You could face it another direction just as easily. And then the way you have it situated over the garage, you got the garage door that's not centered on the wall, but then you got this weird balcony protruding out, which is it's just strange, it's problematic, and it's just an odd thing to do, and it takes the house out of balance and draws attention to things that shouldn't be paid attention to. Generally, the elevation that I find most offensive about this is the one I'm going to have to use your rendering because it's the best example of it. But this one on the bottom right, I just think this bottom right, please, Jonathan. Like, I'll tell you what, I like this a lot. It's a really nice composition. Everything here is problematic. The way this hip intrudes on the entry, the way this roof structure down here is out of alignment with the upper floor, the fact that you got this balcony, the off-center garage, all of it just needs to be rethought. It's way too complicated, the roof plan, and you can see it when you look at the roof plan. You can just see that you're not in control of the design. So I think it's back to the drawing board on the house itself. Hopefully you have enough advice from us around, or conformity around what needs to happen on the site and how to get to the house and where to put it. And I would hope that you'd spend some time really studying the framing, the alignment, and getting this roof structure and the house organized, because it's not there.
Okay, thank you. At that point, can we go back to the site or the zoomed out? That one right there. Maybe zoom in a little bit. Okay, so my main concerns, I think, were the amount of paving in the front. And I'm wondering, I don't know if, why isn't the garage over here so that this doesn't have to all be paving? So I guess my comment might be consider flipping the garage to the other side of the house. But again, or find a way of reducing paving in the front yard. But the bigger concern, I think, is what Kaylee sort of alluded to, and that's the impact on the oak trees. The arborist report, he doesn't seem too concerned about the oaks. And so I don't know if these are oaks and we're saying that there's no impact to them. That's just not the case. This one right here, if you're going to put a road right through the middle of the critical root zone, there's no way that tree's going to survive. So the question might be, why can't, and also I think it's kind of, look how close we are and how intrusive this is on this neighbor here. Can we not come off a little bit further over and bring it around this tree and then come down with that roadway? Is that a possibility? Okay, so I think that would help this area a lot, but again, I want to see the site so we can actually see what's happening in this zone. So that would be a suggestion, is to realign the entry off of Mission Park Drive. Otherwise, I'm not going to rehash what everyone else said because I'm in agreement. So we are here for further conceptual, and it sounds like site visit would be the next step, and taking these comments to heart and I think we need more information on these plans as well, as Josh alluded to. So yeah, I think this would be a return for further conceptual / preliminary if it gets to that, or do you want to see it one more time?
One more time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
This drawing needs to have the additional topo lines and the additional property lines and the main tree locations, like around there might be some trees that are not shown somewhere.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if there was a survey of the actual site either. We just have a site plan with a lot of info on it, so we need to see existing conditions also.
So it has to be approximate, there are surveys, they are cheap. There's some information that available at the county for some topo. It's not exact, but close enough.
Right.
That could be added to this, so you see how where the contour lines are and so forth.
So we were wondering, what are the landforms surrounding the site?
And especially going up to the drive.
Yeah,
And-
I'm just gonna add that to the documentation again, like this applicant doesn't seem to really understand that he's making a design presentation to an architectural aesthetic review board. Like, you've got all these technical drawings, you've got drawing after drawing after drawing, and not much effort being made to sell it. Like, the fact that the model doesn't match the plans and the no detail ascertainable, and then you're throwing in details that are part of a presentation that comes much after we get through the conceptual phase. So you need to park yourself in a conceptual design mode, make an appropriate presentation, and we need to work harder to actually design something that works and give us a presentation that actually helps us get to what you want, which is an approval. And you're really pushing against the grain the way you're making this presentation. And I think there's plenty of precedent for you, and I think this. So it kind of pains me to actually say this, but it's going to get done better if you actually bring that spirit of what we need to see here. And this is clearly missing the mark.
Okay, also, I'd like to consider the possibility that since he owns this property as well, and you have an existing driveway, you know, what are the odds that we can avoid this whole thing? You know, can we come in here and just scoot right into this site? Is that yeah, but he owns all this whole thing, so I'm just wondering if it's a possibility, that's all. So, yeah, so let's move on then, return for further conceptual with site visit when ready. Okay, moving on then, item number 6. Sorry. But T-Mobile? Well, I have number. Yeah, mine had, this was from the member agenda. So I'm off on all these. So the T-Mobile is item 7. 7. Okay, so we do have 13 items then, but 6 dropped. Okay, then I say we do item number 7. Okay. And sorry, gentlemen, I think we're gonna be going to lunch after that. So we'll pick up number 8 after lunch. So item 7 then, T-Mobile at Tucker's Grove Park. We have an applicant here for that. This is request of Jeremy Siegel, Yukon Group, agent for T-Mobile, for further conceptual review of a new 55-foot high T-Mobile wireless telecommunications facility disguised as a pine tree, which would replace an existing 50-foot high facility. Do we have an applicant here for this? Go in the back this here. Didn't she bring the boards up? Oh. Okay. So do we not have an applicant then for item number 7, the T-Mobile project?
This is Willow, the planner. I dropped off the material boards earlier, but Rachel Davidson said she was on.
No. Yeah, I don't see her.
Okay, I'll send her an email.
So do you all want to try and get item number 8 in while these guys are here? Okay, let's do it. This is Pfeiffer Additions, request of DMHA architect. Just know that you're going to have to be quick and succinct because we're hungry. So, you know, it's up to you if you want to go up against this group when they're hungry. All right, request of DMHA architect for Matthew Pfeiffer for preliminary approval of the interior and exterior renovation of 2,500 square feet of the second existing 2-story residence, a new 2nd-story addition of 1,100 square feet, new attached 3-car garage, new detached pool cabana, and attached gym, and detached sauna, and a barn. This is 4525 Via Maria, and last heard March 31st of this year. Names for the record, please.
Ryan Mills with DMHA. Michael Stroh with DMHA.
Amy Sublett, Boston.
Okay, let's see, I'll read through the comments from last time and then turn it over to you for your brief but excellent presentation. A, well-designed project. B, make all elevations consistent in terms of detailing and fenestration. Tone down colors to make less white. Fire access is a challenge and requires study. Provide renderings that are accurate with respect to landscaping. Consider greater contrast between stone and stucco. So whenever you're ready, show us what's changed.
Good morning. Yeah, we'll just jump right into it. So let's start with, I mean, the overarching thing is in the last few months, we've been waiting to come back, but we just kind of did that fine tuning, been working with engineering team. So we looked at all the fenestration for consistency. So kind of addressing some of those comments. Let's go to our rendered views. Oh, we're not driving. So this will just address the first part about making all elevations consistent, detailing the illustration. So the first version you saw, we just hadn't completed all that level of modeling. So now we have kind of a completed package. So here's that front view on the right, more or less. So a lot more attention was paid to those long kind of ribbon glazing portions, kind of the consistency of size and proportion. We've tidied up, like the entryway got simpler. Some of the materiality got simpler. So let's keep going to the next rendering. This was another area. So this is on the rear side of the house, kind of the back side of the garage and master suite. So the image on the left shows, again, I think this was one of the places in particular where the glazing was just not resolved. And this kind of speaks to a few things. So we found a good rhythm and consistency and proportion for all that. The stone material, we'll talk about materials in a second, but we applied a little bit more. So you see that the long plain wall, and that's really a language we're using throughout the entire compound, and that limestone singular plane that moves past the building mass in a few places. We did punch windows there. That was, I don't think it made the minutes, but one of the concerns last time of that big blank wall. Pulled all the landscape off of it. The image on the right, we further broke up kind of this small facade, but it was important. We previously had limestone wrapping all the way around and flanking both sides of that the stone chimney mass. So we kind of introduced screen. There was another opening on that lower level, and we have our kind of vertical slat screen that kind of acts as spandrel and kind of is top and bottom of that new opening. Fine. Next sheet, please. So if we can zoom into one of those two views. So this kind of gives you the largest perspective of the main house from the rear. It's not a public view, but it kind of helps you appreciate all the elements. So that stone wall element on the right with the glazing and the floating roof above, then we kind of have this rhythm. So starting right to left, so kind of that's one of the main themes of the project, and we kind of have this rhythm of then to quiet the vertical wood screen. This is actually kind of where you transition down to the yard, a break in all the massing, so you can see it's very transparent. It's like indoor outdoor space. And this is really that main house component, and then we step back down to a one-story element, also clad in that vertical wood, which happens down below, lower on the site as well. So we just took a closer pass at all of the openings. We might have had a few that were existing to remain last time, but we just, realized they're all going to be new. So we just have a consistent proportion and head height kind of throughout now. I will talk about it here, and then we can jump to the palette. So we studied a few palettes. The board was requesting a little more contrast between the elements. So the first thing we did was get a little more earth toned, and then that pushed the stone, which, there's a fair amount of stone on this project, even darker. And we just weren't happy with it. The owners really did not appreciate it. So we have kind of pulled back. So there's two kind of competing interests: greater contrast between the elements and not being too bright white. So where we landed is we're still a white. We're trying to get it to a warm, natural white. Again, we don't consider this hillside not very visible of a house on this side. So this is where we landed after study. So it's just so the limestone can be kind of like a medium hue and not get too dark. And so the contrast now comes, with the wood, and then the medium value, it's like a 3 or 4 of the limestone, and then a warm plaster. So why don't we jump to material board? And this might be a better picture of it. We can zoom out here. And we're only as good as a PDF on a projector, but so you can see the limestone. This all reads very blue, but it's kind of a nice natural light. Yeah.
So, yeah, the image above is just how we're doing the stack bond, so it's just, it does with this different color. But then it provides a nice contrast against the dark stained cedar rain screen, as well as any of the other wood elements that we have. And then white, which the white color of the plaster does read, obviously on the screen, it just reads as white, but it does have a little bit of brown to it. It's got a little bit of warmth to it. Just to not be so completely reflective. And then so we've got that, again, we've got that dark cedar stain where we have or dark stain on the cedar where we have any exposed wood pieces. All of our window systems will be dark bronze, and then the light fixtures we have are at the top left, just a simple dark bronze. They're simplistic little boxes. Do you want to go to the accessory buildings? Okay, so if you could go to page 38, please.
Maybe we'll just hit on, so the site planning, the driveway and fire truck access. So we spent a few meetings with fire department and tidied that up. So we have their full review and support.
Along the driveway, there is the one oak tree that is there. We had an arborist report produced for that, but also the intention is to leave that tree and mitigate the driveway construction as best as possible. But in addition, what we've done from a landscaping standpoint is we've added, we've actually done the mitigation as a tree. The intention, both by the fire department and by us, is to leave the tree and we don't have the problem in terms of access.
Okay, so this is moving down the site. We just want to show for consistency, the AUD isn't part of this application technically, but we think it's ADU, sorry, there's no AUD here, ADU. But we think it's important kind of for the flavor. That was that my buzzer. Okay, quick wrap up. We'd love to give Amy a couple minutes too. So you can see consistency in language throughout, all the same elements, just like the last one-story element on the main house. We're doing the same for the pool house, the vertical clad, nice stepping, all the same roof elements on all of the structures. There's our limestone wall, again, little blown out. And then just another vantage point showing the layering. This is from up at the main house looking down on the lower part of the property, pool house, the ADU, and then the garage. It's now a garage, it is not a barn for planning. Let's go to the next. Any other sheet, next page, please. The other vantage points, and maybe we can, again, I think we're just really happy with how we've addressed the site. There's the main house on the upper level and how we're stepping down and layering down to the lower corner of the site, all with the same language, but creating distinct little zones and outdoor spaces. So there's actually a lot of privacy. The next sheet, please. And just a couple more views, kind of showing the overall context. These both are from, what is that, the south property, west property line, not visible. There's a huge hedge between us and the neighbor, but again, just kind of wanted to show this board the context of the language and how we're consistent through all the buildings. I'd love to give you 1 minute.
Okay, the landscape is much the same as the last time we were here. All the water is planted, and mostly drip irrigation with the exception.
If you go to page 10.
Well, and then we were hoping, so both teams, so we removed all that landscaping that wasn't literal. We actually, everything we do show in the architectural renderings matches. I don't know if it's not species wise, not literal. And then Bosque, of course, have created their own.
Here's our planting plan. substituted those oaks that were mentioned before, the 10 those live oaks. For other trees we had previously on the plan. And otherwise, we're just this wall. Otherwise, we do have a bit of landscape lighting proposed. It's very minimal. There were some changes to the hardscape on the driveway since last time we were here to be more comfortable. Yeah.
So we are here asking for preliminary approval.
Okay, thanks. Questions? No questions. Public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this? Raise your hand if so. Okay, see no one. Back to the board then for comments. Ms. Frosher.
I think it's a really nice project. I like the way you've pulled together your materials and your fenestration, so I think it's good. Is this at the end of a cul-de-sac? Or it's a dead end, right? Yeah. And it's a 1 acre parcel, and how much slope is there across the whole thing?
It runs about, it runs between about 18 and 20 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that?
You're up one.
Right. And then below it, what's below it? As far as the next property is?
Yeah, there's just a couple of residences, but there's pretty heavy landscaping. We do have some photos.
And thank you for knowing the PDF numbers. I think we should have everybody do that because it makes Jonathan's job so much easier.
So this is really the bottom right. Up on the driveway with the south, so you can see on the right, that's the existing garage where we're sitting at. And so to the right, so really only the
Okay. Great. Well, I think it's a very nice project.
Mr. Verdiak, comments.
Well, I agree. It seems much more together than it's all one unit and harmonious. I don't know, harmonious, is that a word for architect?
Good work.
Mr. Peugeot.
And nothing to add, thank you.
Ms. Grubb. Okay, Mr. Bloomer.
Page 29. Looking at what you're trying to do here, it's hard. A pretty tough little nugget because you got an existing house you're trying to do, and you've done some pretty excellent architecture to add on to it. And I just think that there's some stuff a little bit out of balance that needs to be addressed. Probably mind my own business, but here I go. So there's a couple of things I've noticed here that just don't make sense to me. I understand how you have this fireplace parked in the corner. I'm not sure it really deserves to be expressed on the exterior because it's kind of getting in the way of, I think, the purity of what you're trying to do. I would consider revisiting this. And I'm just looking at this, wondering why this volume here isn't being clad in stone, and that piece right there just feels like it just jumps in there for no reason. And then this thing is kind of a less honorable material. So if it was me, I would be well, it is me right now, isn't it? So I would look at just studying making this stone. And I don't think you have to do this. A modern house, you got a really cool fireplace scheme. I looked at it in the floor plan. I wouldn't change any of it, but I don't know that you need to do that, especially with the kind of venting we do nowadays. The other thing that's kind of just keeps nagging at me is this is amazing. Incredible. And so is that. I already talked about that. But then I come here and your window fenestration just kind of falls apart. It's like you got the old style and the new, and these windows need, like, especially this little guy right here, kind of just poking in there, otherwise nice composition. So I think you need to study somehow to get these windows to feel like what you're doing on some of the other elements of the house that you've really brought up. If you go down to the page 30. Now, this is probably should be filed under an opinion and I should keep to myself too, but I just want you to consider it because it's certainly not a deal killer, but this thing feels like a big block of material. And I really like what you're doing with this wall and this roof. I would consider extending this roof out and tucking this underneath it, kind of like maybe, well, dare I say Frank Wood, right, would do, and then venting it differently. But it just, there's a move here that's just getting interrupted by this thing, and I just think it doesn't feel subtle, and some of the other stuff does, and like that. And then going to the back of the house, I don't know what that is. It's on sheets 31. Thanks. Couple things there. Just to think, oh, there's another. This is the last thing on this. Looking at something. Yeah, can I zoom in on the one on the left there, John? Again, this is kind of the same problem. I know you guys are probably already aware of this. This looks like the old house. There's just, it's hard to compare these two in terms of the way the windows are working. And I think it's definitely salvageable, but what's got my attention is how this intersection is working. It seems like you put one of these walls to work or do something to detail that where it's like, it's just weird. It just seems inconsistent with everything else. The roof kind of changes direction here. This form collides with that. It seems like there should be a juncture of some kind of mass or something to break down this and bring it into what else you've been doing. And I suppose all those comments are mostly pointed at the existing part of the house that you're having to deal with. But I think you guys are onto it. I just think that, I know there's probably an idea of like, oh, we got to just keep it the way it is and not spend money there. But I think what you've designed elsewhere is so damn detailed and unique. It feels like two different structures. And I see how you separate, but just something there might, I don't know. That needs study. The rest of it looks, it's actually kind of an amazing house. So not kind of, it is extraordinary. So I like everything else about it. If you go down to the next sheet on 32, that's where I think I was kind of looking at it right there. This juncture here just feels like it needs some attention. Like I was in the elevation kind of expecting the roof to change height here, but I suppose that like maybe the entry roof that you have to pull all the way across and find itself. I don't know. You guys are good at what you do. I should shut up. Sorry.
Anything else? Okay.
Well, just to continue Josh's rant a little bit, you could extend the window to the roof, and it would emulate the other side where there's a continuous band, and just have a wooden header going across, so the white goes up and stops at the overhang, and the window continues in each case. And I think that you could look at that. It might make them more together.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't have much to add other than, to me, I mean, there's a lot of, it seems overly developed for me for a rural setting. There's so much square footage all over this 1 acre site, but I haven't seen the site and we have no complaints from the neighbors. So I just wanted to voice what I thought was an overbuilt rural site, but we're not in Montecito. So any other last minute comments? We're here for preliminary approval. Someone wants to make a motion.
I'm proud to make a motion. Approval with the comments made.
Second by John. Joe, do you need any clarification on Josh's rant? I guess there weren't really many comments, other than a few little things.
Boils down to, study the entry, study the existing structure, and bring it more into conformity with the proposed design. That's all it needs to be said.
Great. Okay, we have a first and second. All those in favor of preliminary approval? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. You too. All right, we'll now break for lunch and return at 1:15. Beginning with item number 7 and then 9.